Our tolerance for fear in the American church is really high. Now, I love the local church, so don't get me wrong. But think about it. We really take it in stride. When we hear that someone's fearful about something or feeling anxiety, far too often we just take it in stride. We say something like, oh yes, I would be too, I understand that. But that's really not how it's supposed to be. Now, we might mention the fact that the Lord did say fear not a lot in the Bible, which of course is true, but we don't usually take it beyond that. Or we might say something like, well, fear is the opposite of faith, but we don't keep going with it. And so too often we have people who are sitting there and they're thinking to themselves, okay, but how do I do that? It's just not quite as cut and dried as some other commands. Like, think about it. Don't steal. Okay, that's pretty cut and dried. I mean, I'm gonna know pretty much when I've stolen something. Or don't have sex before marriage. Well, when we hear that, we don't think to ourselves, I wonder how I do that. Well, you just don't have sex before marriage, right? I mean, it's kind of straightforward. But fear not is different than that. It feels more ambiguous. It's kind of out there somewhere. And so the end result is that we just don't think it's possible. I also think we don't quite understand that we're supposed to live fearless lives. And so there we are, left in our anxiety and our stress, not knowing that we can live free from this. Now, if you were to ask somebody, well, what's the number one quality that a Christian should have beyond love? Besides love, what's the number one quality? They would say what? Faith, right? We forget that faith and fearlessness are very, very similar. They're first cousins, for sure. Now, I want to read you something that a young woman wrote. She came to the first Fearlessness workshop 8-week series that we did. She said, what would it be like if there were women of God all around who were fearless? I think women are yearning to be fearless. They just don't know how. At least that's how I felt. Once they're taught how to be fearless, these women will teach others and it will spread. Now, the thing that I want to stress in there is, did you hear where she said, I think women are yearning to be fearless, they just don't know how. I so agree with that. When I read that, it just hit me so hard. Yes, women are so yearning to stop living in constant chronic anxiety and dread and asking, what if? We want to be free, but I think number one, we don't know how. And number two, I think we assume it's not quite possible. Like maybe fear not is something that the Lord said and he pretty much meant what he said, but he didn't quite mean what he said. So we read those words, fear not, but we read them as though they're a platitude. And I'm going to talk about this more, hopefully the next video. But suffice it right now to say that the Lord did not say fear not just to make you feel better. He said it as a command. It was an instruction, a directive from the mouth of God. Fear not. You have to step out of this mindset that it just isn't quite attainable or Jesus didn't quite mean it. You have to believe that it can happen. I know people for whom this has happened, and I'm certainly living it myself. When I was putting together the book about fearlessness, what I kept having to do was go back over and over again and look at old journals. Thank goodness I have always journaled like a crazy woman, because I was able to go back and dig these things out and look on, old documents in my computer, and I was able to control find and search for words like what if and I'm afraid of, or this stressed me out, because so often we think we're stressed when we're really just terrified. And so I went back and I searched for those words, and of course I found them over and over again. But the reason that I kept having to do this is that I literally forgot what it felt like to walk around with anxiety and my heart going, oh no, 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 no. I honestly forgot what that felt like And I needed to be able to convey the emotion and the behaviors that it prompts, and even the physical responses. And so I had to remind myself by going back to these old journals, because I honestly have forgotten what it's like to worry. Now, I'm not the type to run around saying, oh, God's word for the church is blah, 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 blah. I mean, I certainly believe in that. I'm just not the one who's usually saying something like that. But I am going to say that I absolutely know that I know that I know that I know that one of the themes of this year that we've just stepped into is Christ-centered fearlessness. I know it is. And he's saying enough is enough. I don't want my church scared of everything all the time anymore. This is definitely something he's giving. He's offering the church right now. He's offering you right now fearlessness. And like I said, I know that there are people who are grabbing hold of this. It's like it's coming down from heaven, and some of us are hearing it and sensing it and seeing it and grabbing it. And this really gives me encouragement. All right, this comes from another friend, and one day she texted me because she had a doctor's appointment. But grace and fearlessness has really been carrying her through this. The Lord has given her so much empowerment. And she said this: I feel like one of these doctor's appointments will be a psych intervention. I'm not afraid, which translates to the medical community as either failing to understand or being in denial. Okay, so the medical community sees her calm when she comes in for these tests, and when they give her bad news, they see this peace and this calm that she just walks around in, and they attribute it to something like denial. Unfortunately, I'm afraid that most of the church would be the same. I'm afraid that many believers would attribute her peace to the same thing, and you know what? It shouldn't be like that. The fearless one himself resides in your heart and in my heart. Okay, one last thing that I'm going to read today. I won't usually do this, but sometimes, somebody else says something and I can't say it nearly as well. So I want to make sure I don't misquote them. All right, this comes from another friend of mine who is in the grip of bone cancer. Oh, because he also had a brain tumor and bone cancer. So this is what he said. They were going to open my skull and remove a huge tumor from my brain. The thought should have terrified me, but it didn't. Be not afraid. Fear not. It wasn't even something I had to repeat to myself or make myself believe. It was just there as a simple command that I had already accepted as the proper response to what was about to happen. First off, notice that he said it wasn't something he had to repeat to himself or make himself believe. Let me really stress this. Fearlessness is not something you can conjure up. Fearlessness is not something that you can grit your teeth and grab hold of and then white knuckle your way through things with fake courage. It's the opposite of white knuckling, gritting your teeth, and trying to make something happen and conjure something up. That's not Christ-centered fearlessness at all. He also said, fear not was there as just a simple command that he had already accepted as the proper response. So the key there is that my friend was already in a place where he understood that the phrase fear not was not a trite little saying, that it was a command. And therefore, if it was a command from God, then he was absolutely equipped to obey it. God never says, hey, children, do this or do that, without entirely equipping us to obey that and be totally in peace as we obey it. So our takeaway today is what? Our takeaway is that I know 100% that there are so many believing, devoted women out there who are longing to be free of chronic anxiety and chronic fear. And our takeaway is it's absolutely possible. Okay, 2 things real quick. First of all, if you want to stay on this video journey with me, then please make sure that you subscribe to the channel, and you'll just get a little notification that tells you when there's a new one out. Also, if you want to be a part of the next 8-week teaching on this, the next 8-week workshop, it's starting on February 5th. All you have to do is email me so that I can save you a spot. My email is doulos214, that's DOULOS 214@hotmail.com. Just send me a quick note and I'll save you a place, okay? It's time, in fact, it's way past time for us to stop being so tolerant of fear, anxiety, and stress and everything related. As believers, it's time to stop tolerating that and step into the fearlessness that we were designed to walk in, and that is our inheritance as believers. Okay, see you next time.